Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Friday. The weekend is, well, pretty much here. By the time you're watching or listening to this, it might well be here. And what a big weekend it is with Arsenal versus Bournemouth tomorrow at the Emirates. Lunchtime kickoff. Always a weird one, isn't it? Lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday. Atmosphere is never quite as good. Everyone's a little bit sleepy still. Can't really afford that for that to be happening tomorrow. Their place needs to be absolutely rocking, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be. Looking forward to that. I'll be heading up. I'm not in the press box tomorrow. I'm in my seat next to my dad. I'm going to be there for the next two home games. Can't be in the press box for these two games. They're too important. Need to be sitting in my seat with my dad. So can't wait for that. Mikel Arteta is going to be speaking later on today. Again, by the time you're watching or listening to this, he might well have already have spoken at his press conference. That's 1:30 p.m. at the Realty Training Centre, London Colney. I'll be heading to that, provided I get all my stuff done in time. I will be there for that. So keep your eyes peeled to my social media for all the updates from what he has had to say. I'm sure we'll be talking about stuff like Gabriel Jesus, which we're going to be talking about again in this show, and other big stories. We'll see what the latest team news and injury news is ahead of the weekend. Right, let's start, shall we, with Gabriel Jesus, who there's been stories about Arsenal potentially being open to selling. Now we're hearing that he wants to stay, according to sources close to Gabriel Jesus. He's been speaking as well about his future as part of an interview he's given for the Arsenal Matchday programme, which is coming out tomorrow, obviously at the game. The website have put that out early. The Arsenal website have put that out early, and there's a passage in it which I thought was quite interesting from Jesus. I spoke about it briefly in yesterday's Inside Arsenal Extra Time with James Benge, which if you haven't watched or listened to yet, it's down there in your podcast, or you can find it on YouTube. That went out yesterday. And he's been speaking about sort of how difficult this season has been with the sort of ongoing knee injuries that he's been basically playing through. Because to be fair to Jesus, he hasn't actually missed that many games through injuries this season. He's been fit for a large chunk of the season. He's just clearly not at 100% because of these knee injuries. He says, it's tough. I've loved playing football since I was 3 years old. So being injured is hard. Last season, I think I played my best 6 months before the World Cup when I got my knee injury, and everyone knows what happened after. The season has been tough. I missed pre-season, had surgery again, and then had a couple more injuries. I'm doing my best to help the team and hoping to stay fit so I can do a full pre-season this summer. Then it's a different story. I thought there was some interesting bits there where he said, I'm doing my best to help the team. It just sounds like a player who knows he's nowhere near 100%. He's nowhere near fit because of this knee injury he's struggling with, but he's still making himself available and trying to play and do his best for the team, which I think is exactly what Gabriel Jesus is doing this season. When he talks there about hopefully being able to have a full pre-season this coming summer, it's difficult to describe just how important pre-season is for some players. And if you miss it, or if you're playing catch up, it's really difficult to hit your top form. You know, I just remember the couple of seasons in COVID, where the Arsenal pre-seasons, when they were so disrupted and because of everything that was going on, and you saw the difference in that when the team started the season. But when Mikel finally got them away to have his first proper pre-season, which was last summer, they obviously came out absolutely firing last season. Pre-season makes such a difference. I think for someone like Gabriel Jesus as well, it'd be so important. The only issue is, does he need to have another knee operation? Now, when I asked Mikel that a couple of months ago, Mikel said to me, no, he doesn't, or he doesn't think he will have to. But then Gabriel Jesus since then has admitted that he might have to go under the knife again to try and solve this problem that's been plaguing him this season. If he does that, you would hope it's something they can do basically the day after the final game of the season, even if that means he gets no holiday this summer. You know, if you can get that operation done the day after the Everton game, or maybe the day after the title victory parade, and then getting ready, make sure, you know, hopefully if it's only going to be 6 weeks on the treatment table or something like that when pre-season starts, he is ready to go again, and then can have a really big pre-season. And I think if he does that, that's why I really don't want to see Gabriel Jesus go this summer. I just think it would be, I mean, look, when I say it would be a mistake, it depends how much money. If someone offers a load of money for Gabriel Jesus, then obviously you'd have to consider it. But I think he's got so much to give. And I think what we've seen from Jesus this season, and what we've seen from him basically since the World Cup, it's not the real Gabriel Jesus. We saw the real Gabriel Jesus in those 6 months before the World Cup. And that was a player that was absolutely unbelievably good and transformative for this Arsenal team. And if we can get that player back, if he can get this knee sorted and he can have a proper pre-season and he can get back to those sort of fitness levels, then why would Arsenal consider selling? I'm not saying he has to be Arsenal's absolute first choice number 9 next season, but to have him, a player like Gabriel Jesus in the squad and another top quality forward who hopefully Arsenal are going to sign, then that gives you an awful lot of strength and depth, and it gives you an awful lot of versatility when it comes to Jesus as well, because of course he can play out wide on either side, or he can play as a striker as well. So yeah, my opinion on Jesus is I want him to stay. I hope he stays. I hope he gets himself fit. If he does need an operation, gets it done early this summer, come back, be fit, ready to go in pre-season, and then ready to make a big impact next season. Lots of you guys have been getting in and responding to what we spoke about yesterday with the news that Jesus might be for sale. And there's a sort of wide range of opinions about it, which I thought were quite interesting. I've collected a few of them together and put them here. Like Ryan here says, I think Jesus and Zinni are the perfect examples of how fast we are progressing. 12 months ago, they were the first 2 names on the team sheet. Now you have an issue even finding space in the 11 for them, mainly on form. I'd like to keep Jesus, but if the money's right, then I have no issues. And again, that's kind of where I am. Like I said, I don't want him to go. But if someone comes in and offers silly money, which I don't think will happen, because who's going to bid loads of money for Gabriel Jesus this summer, given there these knee injuries that other clubs will know about and will be monitoring? I just can't see someone's going to spend big money on him. So you just keep him, get him fit and keep him. Antita 23 says Arsenal have surpassed Gabriel Jesus, replaced with a world-class striker. Not always as easy as that. Johnny says it wouldn't be the first time Jesus has made a spectacular comeback. Gabby Jesus is still world-class. He's a cut above the rest. A fit Gabriel Jesus is banging down the door to be a starter in this team. He's a winner. He's 27. He's staying at Arsenal. I agree with you, Charles. Unless the medical team know this injury has left him with permanent limitations and is likely to resurface again, he is going nowhere. And then Chile down the bottom there says, hi, Charles. I would keep Jesus and sell Nketiah. Jesus is a great squad player and can impact games with his pressing and dribbling. He can. I mean, even a half-fit Jesus this season has come on and made impacts at times. You know, in the Champions League, he was great this season, especially in the group stages, was excellent. Even when he came on against Bayern Munich and set up the goal for Leandro Trossard, you know, real quick feet in the box, clever thinking. He did really well to set up Trossard for his goal at Wolves as well recently. And this is a player who's clearly not fit, clearly nowhere near 100%, and he's still impacting games at times. And so, yeah, and I think the versatility he brings, I'm certainly in the camper keeping Jesus for now, unless something mad happens in the summer. Right, moving on, looking ahead at the Bournemouth game. Now, Jurrien Timber, we've spoken about quite a bit in the shows leading up to this weekend. I think we'll find out later on tonight if he's going to be involved tomorrow, because the under-21s are playing tonight against Manchester United in their playoff. And it's a 7 p.m. kickoff, so team news will come through about 6 p.m. Obviously, Timber's played the last 2 games for the under-21s, played half an hour. No, so they played the first half against Blackburn, and against Liverpool, he played about 70 minutes. Now, if he's in the team tonight for the under-21s in their game against Man United, of course, he's not going to be involved tomorrow. But if he's not in the team, then that was certainly a very, very strong suggestion that he's going to be in the matchday squad for tomorrow's game. So I don't think we'll have to wait too much longer to find out. It'd be fantastic if he is involved. The reception he's going to get, even if he doesn't come on, I imagine it's going to be absolutely huge. For him, it will be an emotional moment. I'm sure he's worked so hard to get back to this point. You know, I didn't think we'd see him again this season. I was always thinking next, if he comes, it'll be a massive bonus if he plays this season. But so it'd be fantastic if he does. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think there's too many choices. I mean, if he does play, obviously one of the biggest decisions Mikel's going to have to make is who doesn't make it on the bench, because he's got everyone available. So he's going to have to leave some players out. He left Reece Nelson out against Tottenham, but if Timber comes into the squad, then he's going to have to leave someone else out, maybe a Nketiah or a Smith Rowe or a Fabio Vieira, someone like that. So that's probably the biggest decision facing Mikel at the moment. Predicted 11 wise, this is what I've gone for. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen. This is actually the 11 that I would choose as well. We're aligned this time. Doesn't always happen, but I think the team that Arteta is going to pick is the team that I would pick as well for this game. And that is basically no changes from what we saw against Tottenham. There's a couple of decisions maybe he needs to make. You know, left back, do you stick with Tomiyasu? Do you bring in Zinchenko for a game against Bournemouth where maybe you're going to have a team playing in quite a low block? You know, would Zinchenko help out in that regard? Maybe you've got a decision to make at left wing. I didn't think Trossard was great against Spurs. I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't think it was great. Do you bring Martinelli back in for this game? Those are the only real decisions he's got to make. But personally, I don't think he'll change anything, and I don't think he should. So the 11 that I'm going for and that I want to see is Raya in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Tomiyasu as a back four. Thomas Partey in the holding role, and then Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice just ahead of him. And then, of course, the front three at the moment of Saka, Havertz, and Leandro Trossard. So that is my predicted 11. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with that? Is that the 11 you would go for? Or do you think Mikel needs to make some sort of changes to the team that started against Spurs? If so, let me know what changes you would make in the comments below. Just flagging this, if you haven't seen it already and you haven't cast your vote, then get over to arsenal.com and you find the links to do that. Mikel Arteta once again up for the Premier League Manager of the Month award for April, the 7th time this season. Kai Havertz is up for the Player of the Month award for April, so you can go and vote for both of those. Makes me laugh, isn't it? It wasn't too long ago everyone was talking about how rubbish Arsenal are in April, and now we're sitting there in May. Obviously they dropped points in the game against Aston Villa, but other than that they're absolutely perfect in the Premier League throughout April with some really, really big, important and impressive wins. So I don't think April's been anywhere near as bad as people were predicting a little bit not so long ago, especially when you look at these, Arteta up for Manager of the Month and Kai Havertz up for Player of the Month. So if you haven't voted and you want to vote, you can go over to the Premier League website and do it, or you can go on arsenal.com and you can follow the links to do that. Before we get on some of your comments, before we wrap this up, Cheeto Obi-Martin. Now, if I make it down to London Colney today, I think I'm going to ask Mikel about Obi-Martin because I'm really interested on it and on him and how involved Mikel is at this stage in the development of a player like Obi-Martin. How much of focus is he putting on it? Because it's really interesting. There's been some stories in the last 24 hours since the last video about how Arsenal could be facing a little bit of an uphill battle in terms of keeping Obi-Martin because of the loophole, because he's got dual nationality, because he's Danish, that teams could use that EU passport that he'd have to take him over to the continent right now and give him a professional contract while he's 16. In England, you can't give him a professional contract until he's 17. So clubs are kind of in that position where they could lose talent if they can qualify to go over with an EU passport. And clubs in Germany we've seen have taken advantage of this time and time again. And there's been talk that Real Madrid, Barcelona are monitoring Obi-Martin as well at the moment. So Arsenal could potentially face a bit of a battle in terms of keeping him. Obviously, Arsenal hope that he will stay and they can keep him until he's 17 and then they can get him tied down to that professional contract and then they can just concentrate on his development for a good couple of years yet. So it is a concern. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just the loophole in the way the rules work over here compared to how they work in the EU at the moment. And hopefully Arsenal keep him because it'd be a real blow given what he's doing and the goals he's scoring, how exciting a prospect he looks. You would hope that Arsenal can convince him just to stay put and wait until he turns 17 when he can sign that professional contract. He's just signed for a new agency, of course, an agency that do have a record of sending players out to Europe early, like Jadon Sancho, for example. And so it is something that agency do and have done very successfully in terms of for the player and their development. But it's also the same agency that look after Bukayo Saka and so there is links with Arsenal as well, and Arsenal hope those links will probably, I imagine, be able to convince them that staying at Arsenal is the best thing for him. I'm interested in Mikel's views on this, so I'm planning, if I do get down to the press conference later, to ask him about Obi-Martin and what he's doing at the moment and how involved Mikel is for players of that sort of age at the moment and how much attention does he pay to it. So hopefully I'll get some good answers from Mikel on that. So last night, God, Tottenham are rubbish, aren't they? They really are. They were awful last night. Absolutely awful. Another set piece conceded. Well, actually two if you count the second one because it was a crossbar from a free kick that was headed in by Jackson. But Chalobah obviously scoring from the header from a free kick in the first half. Chelsea winning 2-0. It's basically done and dusted now, that race for fourth spot. Tottenham 7 points behind Villa. They do have a game in hand, but it just looks too big. Tottenham are done. Absolutely look done now. 15 days they had off. Tottenham when everyone else was playing loads and they've come back, got beaten by Arsenal at home and then gone to Chelsea and got beaten again away from home. Honestly, if you were holding out any hope of Tottenham doing anything against Manchester City, then you just have to watch that performance last night. They are absolutely done and dusted. I just cannot see it happening. And now obviously they're not going to even have fourth place to play for, so they've got no real concerns about that. So yeah, looks like that's done and dusted. I don't think we're going to, if someone's going to take points off Manchester City between now and the end of the season, definitely not going to be Tottenham. Right, before we wrap things up, a couple of questions from you guys. Alex here has got in touch. Says, hi, Charles. Hello from a Frenchman in Chicago. Chicago CM Punks. Wonderful, wonderful city. Right, sporting city is Chicago. Do you think Arteta wants a left eight that has powerful physical abilities. Last season we had Xhaka. This season it's been mostly Havertz or Rice playing there. Can that explain why ESR, Vieira, or even Zinni and Trossard aren't getting regular game time in that position? Havertz, Rice and Xhaka certainly share that physicality and also that durability. They can go full steam for 90 minutes, whereas the other four I named seem to be more 70-minute players, and also their availability, they're pretty much ready every week, never injured. Having some physical in that role protects and also brings the best out of Odegaard, ESR, Vieira, Zinni and Trossard can't bring that physical aspect even when they play at their best. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point, definitely. I mean, when you look at Havertz, Rice and Xhaka and sort of compare what's similar about them, and certainly they do have that physical capability that those other players that you named don't have. I think it's definitely something Mikel wants in his team. You look at the team that he's built at Arsenal now and how physically strong it is, and I think that's a big attribute that he's looking for. It doesn't mean necessarily that I think there's no position in that team for those sort of players. And I think you can pick and choose your games where those sort of players can have a big impact. And maybe you don't need to go quite as physical, but I think it's definitely a sort of attribute that he looks for his players. And like you said, I think it's quite interesting when you sort of pair him next to Odegaard. And you have that more sort of physical player playing next to Odegaard, that might help, as you say, free up Odegaard to do what he does. Although Odegaard is physical capability, whereas maybe not be super, super strong in terms of the others. His physical capability is still just on another planet in terms of his work rate and his running. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's definitely probably something that he looks at when he's looking at that 8 role. And Aquazi Ace says, "Hi Charles, great show as always. Many people are mentioning that we need that magical player, the player whom, when the going gets rough, can grab the game by the scruff of the neck, a Sanchez type player. In your opinion, who in current football market is that player? The player needs to realistically be attainable by Arsenal, so that rules out Mbappe, as we cannot afford his demands." I thought this was an interesting one that I wanted to throw out to you guys, the wider audience, because I was thinking about it before I started this video. I was like, who would I put, sort of magical player, that X Factor type player who could do something? I think, Sanchez is absolutely in that list back in the day for Arsenal when you could just grab a game by himself by doing something absolutely off the cuff. He was such an individual type player, Alexis Sanchez. And I was thinking, who else could do that? And I was struggling. I mean, I think players over in England who can do that. I think you look at Crystal Palace and you look at Elise and Eze, both of them, are capable of just doing something out of nothing and winning games for Crystal Palace on their own by just an outrageous piece of skill or an outrageous goal from nowhere. So I think I'd probably list both of those. Obviously, they're both players with huge amounts of potential who are going to get better. They're not, you're not bringing in a ready-made world-class player there in either of those. You're bringing in talent that are capable, but probably also slightly inconsistent because of their age. I think maybe Rafael Leao abroad, someone who has that running ability, that ability to take players on and score goals from, again, pretty much everywhere and different type of goals. I think Leao probably fits into that bill. Again, can be slightly inconsistent though. I'm not saying Arsenal would go for Leao or anything. I'm just listing players off the top of my head here. I think Alexander Isak as well can do that. We've seen him do that for Newcastle with his ability to dribble past players and create chances for himself. So I think I'd list him in that. But I'd love to get your thoughts on it. An X Factor type player. If Arsenal are going to bring one of these to the club, which I think they are going to try and do this summer. In fact, I know they are going to try and do this summer. Who is out there? Who would you go for? Who is that sort of individual type Alexis Sanchez player who can do something like that? Let me know in the comments below. Right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time, as always. I do appreciate it. Like I said, I'm heading to London Colney very, very soon. So keep following me on social media for all the updates from Mikel Arteta ahead of that big game against Bournemouth tomorrow. Until next time, I'll be back. Like I said, I'm at the Emirates tomorrow. I'm not in the press box. I will try and do a video after the game, though, still summing up what happened and player ratings and hopefully talking about a very good Arsenal victory. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. So until next time, have a fantastic start to the weekend, everyone. I'll speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.